Have you ever left thinking it was the right thing to do and then tried to come back, only to see that they're not waiting for you anymore? I used to think that way too. And you know what? I destroyed everything, all by myself. We're working hard to reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Every click matters more than you think. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Don't miss what really matters. I thought I was doing everything right. I left calmly. No fights, no yelling. I said, "This will be better for both of us." And she nodded. But I didn't understand one thing. She didn't nod because she agreed. She nodded because she was tired of holding on to me. And then I heard that she was gone forever. And only then I realized I could have stayed, and everything would have been different. Morning, an ordinary one. Cold tiles under my feet, the kettle's whistle, light that cuts through my eyes. He stands by the sink, holding a mug but doesn't drink. Everything, just like always, except for one thing. She's not there. She didn't scream, didn't slam the door, didn't cry, didn't even say leave. She just didn't stop him from leaving. He thinks this was a decision, rational, calm, mature. "We're different," he said. "I don't feel anything anymore," he added. Said it as if feeling was something you could lose in a closet, like a charger from an old phone. The night before this, they sat in the kitchen, silently, for too long. He looked out the window, she stared into her tea. Then she said, "You haven't been here for a long time." He replied, "And you seem to be waiting for me to leave." She nodded, as if she was tired of fighting it, and he left, with his things, with a clear head, with a sense of rightness. He even told a friend, "Everything's fair. Nobody's to blame. We just ran out of steam." A day passed, then two, then a week. He waited to feel relief, freedom, lightness, for his head to feel more spacious. But what came was silence. Not the kind where nobody's yelling, but the kind where nobody's breathing next to you. He opened the refrigerator, and for the first time noticed how she always arranged the groceries. At first he thought, why do I remember this? And then got scared that this was all he remembered. He started waking up at night, as if something was wrong, as if he had forgotten something. Once, he even called, just to hear her voice, but hung up when it started ringing. Because, what would he say? "I left, but I feel kind of empty." He told his friends that everything was under control, that he wasn't lonely but in solitude, that it was a conscious choice, that he was better off this way, and he even started believing it, until one day he saw her by chance, from a distance, on the other sidewalk, with a phone in her hand, in a light coat. She was laughing, with someone else, and in that moment, he realized that everything could have been fixed. They weren't broken. They were just tired. He didn't leave because things were bad, but because he didn't know how to repair them. That evening, he came home, to an empty apartment, opened their old text messages, and for the first time in all this time, read every message, not to reread them, but to hear what she was actually saying. And he understood. She never asked for perfection. She just wanted him to stay. He stood by her door for almost half an hour. Didn't knock, just stood there, listening, as if hoping to hear someone walking around in there, or laughing, or waiting. But it was quiet, not dead quiet, but new quiet, the kind of silence that had already settled in without you. He brought her a book, the one she hadn't finished reading. When he left, it was lying by the bed, with a folded corner on page 134. He held it in his hands, not as a gift, as an apology. When she opened the door, his mouth went dry, not from fear, from surprise. She didn't look destroyed, not gaunt, not tear-stained. She looked as if she was already living a different version of herself, one where he no longer existed. "Hi," he said. "Hi. I just wanted to return this and to say that maybe I rushed things. She took the book, opened it, smiled, ran her finger over the folded page. I finished it on audio. While doing dishes, she said, and smiled again. He froze. That phrase, like a slap. Not because it was mean, because it was ordinary. He left, and life went on. "How are you?" he asked. "Good. I spent some time with myself, and I felt better." He wanted to say, "I didn't. I miss you. I made a mistake." But his tongue became heavy as stone. He just nodded. She took a step back. He thought she was inviting him in. His heart jumped. He already imagined her saying, "I missed you too. I was just waiting for you to come back." But she said, "Sorry, I have a Zoom call. Work." He remained standing outside. The door didn't close harshly, quietly, almost gently. And that's what hurt the most. She closed it like someone who's no longer waiting for you. He went home and put the book back on the table and realized this wasn't a gesture of reconciliation. This was an attempt to rewind time. But time doesn't have a rewind button. It only has play. And if you didn't press it, it goes on without you. The next morning, he woke up to a notification. Social media. "You might be interested." Lisa updated her profile picture. In the photo, she was with someone, on a bridge, laughing, looking to the side, not at the camera. He zoomed in, stared, and then turned off the screen. For the first time in many years, he felt that he hadn't just lost someone. He had given her away himself, with his hands, his decision, his words, his leaving. He remains alone, without her, without purpose, without a plan, and starts doing what he should have done long ago, listening to himself. Surprisingly, pain doesn't scream. It sits nearby, quietly, like a shadow. You can live with it, make coffee, watch the news, answer fine to colleagues, and nobody will understand that everything inside is torn apart. He started walking in the evenings, without a route, without music. Just walked until his feet started hurting. Sometimes, he'd stop by random houses and imagine, what if they had been together? What if he had stayed then? Said not what he thought, but what he felt. One day he went into a cafe where they used to sit together. He knew he shouldn't, but sat at the same table. The waiter asked, "The usual for you?" He nodded and smiled, because nobody except him knew that the usual was about both of them. He started writing, at night, in notes, on napkins, in voice drafts, not stories, not books, just phrases from inside himself. I left, but stayed with her in my head. When a door closes slowly, it hurts more. I don't want to get her back. I want to get back the me who was with her. Sometimes he fell asleep at 4 a.m. on the table, a mug of tea that had gone cold an hour ago. On the screen, a cursor and a note, blinking, like a pulse. He caught himself thinking, he's no longer writing to get back to her. He's writing so he doesn't disappear completely. One day he wrote, "Sometimes you don't abandon a person. You abandon the chance to become yourself next to them." He reread it and didn't delete it. A couple days later, a friend called him. "Dude, where are you anyway?" "I'm around, just a bit out of it." "Listen, I saw her recently. She said you came by, that you tried to come back." He fell silent, then said, "She was right. But I was too late." The friend sighed. "Maybe it's still not too late," he answered. There are people who wait, and there are moments that shouldn't be about waiting. They either happen or they're gone forever. Night, the most important one. Back then when he left, when she said everything, but no longer out loud. Some nights don't end. They just freeze in memory and replay over and over. Like that one. He was packing his things silently then. Bag, backpack, charger, keys. She stood in the doorway, No screaming, no tears, just eyes. Very quiet eyes. He was saying something smart, like, "Don't hold it against me. We'll be better off this way." Sometimes it's better to let go. He thought he was being mature, but she barely said anything, just nodded slightly, as if all this had already happened inside her before, and now was just catching up on the outside. He left. The night was warmer than it should have been. Even the moon was shining stupidly, too beautifully for such a scene. He walked, and everything inside was screaming, "Say something else. Stop this. Go back. Just turn around." But he didn't go back, because pride knows how to imitate determination. Later, he would understand. Her silence wasn't a verdict. It was a last hope that he would figure it out himself. More than a month passed. One night he couldn't sleep. His whole body was ringing with silence. He opened the drafts on his phone and suddenly saw a voice message from her, sent that same night, 40 minutes after he left. He hadn't opened it all this time, was afraid, didn't know why, what he'd hear, what he wouldn't hear. But that night, he pressed play. "I know you won't hear this, but I need to say it. I didn't want you to leave. I just didn't know how to ask you to stay. I still love you, but you probably won't hear this. Because if you wanted to, you would have stayed. Good night." He listened and didn't move, as if his body was afraid to move even one atom, so as not to ruin the moment, so as not to lose her voice. He listened to the message 3 times, then just sat there, with the phone in his hand and fear in his chest. Not fear of loneliness, but fear that now there was no one to share this recording with. He wanted to write, to respond, to call, to scream, but the voice message was too old, too late, too not now. He put down the phone, sat in the darkness, remembered everything she used to say, but he hadn't listened then. And one thing came to mind. You're so afraid of doing the wrong thing that you don't do anything at all. He didn't know why he came, just came. The park, that same bench. Early morning when the city hadn't woken up yet, but the wind was already living its own life. He sat down, put his phone next to him, and just sat. This was their bench, where they used to talk about movies, about silly things, about how someday they'd leave this place, together. Now he was here alone, but for the first time, truly present. Not with his thoughts, not in the past, not in regret, just in the moment. He closed his eyes and heard what he hadn't heard before. The wind, the leaves, a pause. The kind of pause where her voice used to sound. He took out his notebook, the one where he wrote his phrases, opened it, and on a clean page wrote, "She didn't leave because she didn't love me, but because she didn't wait long enough for me to stop being afraid." He didn't know what would happen next, if there would be someone else, if there would be a chance. But he knew one thing. If love happened again, he would stay. Even if it was scary, even if he wasn't ready. Because now he knew that uncertainty isn't a reason to leave. And leaving isn't always a solution. Sometimes it's just fear in pretty packaging. He got up and walked away, not to her, not from her, but forward. People often leave not because everything's over, but because they don't know how to stay. Because staying is a risk. It's honesty. It's a conversation that's scary to start. But if you leave too early, you'll spend forever waiting for a moment to come back. And you know what's scary? Sometimes the person who would have forgiven you already has forgiven you, already let go, and just isn't waiting anymore. Staying isn't weakness. Staying is choosing to be alive, even when it hurts. And leaving, you can always do that. But if you left too early, then maybe you'll spend your whole life walking not away from that person, but away from yourself.